Alrighty guys, thanks for joining me. This is your host, ID Jester. And this is going to be a video, as a reply to our good friend CP Cards and Dice. And his thoughts and opinions on Deep Drive Baseball. Because I had posted a game the other night, went through some things that I didn't think was designed right or, just didn't set right with me. And I don't think he completely understood my points. He took notes, but some of the notes, I don't know, he was not understanding. It didn't seem like, because I watched his video today and I conversed with him and some of the others that were there. And so I just wanted to clarify what my problems and issues with Deep Drive Baseball game are. So before I get into that, number one, Deep Drive Baseball is not a bad game. I'm not saying it's a bad game. I'm saying I have some issues with it, that I don't like some of the design decisions that were made. We'll go show you exactly, step by step, because I don't want any miscommunication or misinterpretation of what I said or how I said it. So we're going to go step by step through some of these things so I can show you exactly what I'm talking about. So, as I was saying, I'm not saying Deep Drive Baseball is a bad game, all right? CP Cards and Dice loves this game, and more the power to them. More the power to them. That is great. I'm glad I was the one to introduce Deep Drive Baseball to a lot of our fellow YouTubers out there. It was kind of unknown at the time when it first came out. I came across it. Somebody had actually messaged me about it. I tried it out. I thought it was pretty cool. I brought it to my channel. Others saw it. Now they're actually playing it and getting involved with it and enjoying it. And that is wonderful. That is what, that I couldn't be happier about that. If you enjoy something, anything I say doesn't matter. All right? It doesn't matter at all. If you enjoy it, I'm not the biggest Strat-O-Matic fan in the world. The gameplay is fine. I played it last night, as a matter of fact. Live streamed it. And I don't have any issues. There are some issues with the game, but my issues is mostly with the company, how the company deals with their customers, and blah, blah, blah. But people think that I hate Strat-O-Matic because of that. I don't actually hate Strat-O-Matic. And so, even though I say something negative about Deep Drive Baseball, keep in mind, it's not that I'm saying it's a bad game. I'm saying this didn't sit right for me personally. Go watch CP Cards and Dice. He loves this game. He thinks it's one of the best games on the market. He really enjoys playing it. He loves the flow of the game. And if you watch him play it, and that is your kind, that is something that you enjoy, you think you would be interested in, then by all means, download, buy Deep Drive Baseball. The more baseball sim games out there are, the better it is for all of us, to be honest. Just because I don't like something or I don't like part of something doesn't mean that you won't enjoy it, right? I'm not going to rate Deep Drive Baseball as probably my top 10. It's probably outside my top 10 because of these issues. I think there's other games that do things better. So let's go through those step by step by step. So I don't know how long this video is going to be. It's probably going to be a long video. So I apologize for that ahead of time. But I don't want any miscommunications. I want to express my feelings, but more importantly than expressing my feelings about the game is, if I don't like it because of a certain aspect, doesn't mean you won't. CP Cards and Dice, I love the guy. He's awesome. He's great. Does great things on his channel. Doesn't mean that because he enjoys it and I don't enjoy it as much, doesn't mean that I think the game's bad, or I think there's, it's not worthy of you buying it. I never said to anyone, don't buy Deep Drive Baseball. Never. I would never tell anyone that, okay? I get all kinds of messages, emails, comments from people. People are very passionate about things they enjoy. So anytime I bring up Stratomatic or I bring up some of the other games that I have issues with and I explain why I have issues with them, there is always 20 to 40 to 100 guys emailing me, messaging me, calling me names, calling me out, telling me I don't know what I'm talking about, telling me that, I'm just an idiot, I'm a jerk, all kinds of things. If that's the way you feel towards me, that's fine. I really don't care, to be honest. I have an opinion. I play lots of games. I have lots of experience with this. I do things. I try to help people with things. I try to make things better. And I try to give people insight. If I don't say the right things or I, dish your game because I don't like certain things about it, does it mean that we still can't communicate back and forth? We can't be friends. We can't converse. We can't do anything. It doesn't mean any of that. All it means is I have an opinion. I'm giving you my opinion. You might have a totally different opinion. What I might say is a con, you might think is a pro. What I think is a pro, you might think is a con. So take that all with a grain of salt. So let's get into it. So number one, okay? What I told in my live stream the other day was it's very frustrating as a gamer, as a player, okay, to not have all of the stats on the card, okay? Now, CB Cards and Dice, again, this is not between me and him. This has got nothing to do with that, okay? It's got to do with I brought some issues up. He replied to those issues. He has his own thoughts and feelings. I don't think he quite understood what I was talking about, so I am just clarifying this, not just for him, but for anyone out there that might have saw his video, that might have, watched his live stream and him talking about it. And I want to show everyone exactly so that at least people can hear my side. And then they can call me an idiot and tell me I don't know what I'm talking about. So, that's fine. But this is how I see things. So, what I'm talking about is, first of all, we're going to talk about the cards. All right? I like the look of the cards. Okay, so as CB Cards and Dice said, okay, I got to give him credit. He said multiple times while I was watching. I couldn't watch the whole thing because I was at work, obviously. But I was kind of popping in and out, and so I don't know exactly everything he said and everything he talked about during his live stream, okay? So I don't want to put words in his mouth or anything, but I did hear him say several times that on his notes he said that I think the game is good, that I don't have, I don't think it's a bad game. I like the flow of the game, etc. I mean, I do have a lot of positive things to say about the game. The cards look fine. I don't have much problem with the cards, but here's the problem I do have, right? Is anytime you have a stat that's missing, especially for us players that play, like I have 20 different baseball sim games that I play on a regular basis. I usually don't play, I played Stratomatic for the first time in 3 months, right? So when I get back into Stratomatic, I got to remember the charts, I got to remember the stats, I got to remember the rules, I got to remember all that stuff because I haven't played it in 3 months, right? So when I go and play, we'll just say play ball, right? When I go and play ball, I'm going to have to try to remember the rules. I'm going to have to try to remember the stats. I'm going to have to try to remember everything. I'm not playing the same game over and over and over and over again, okay? So I'm one of these guys, I play a game, I'll play a couple games of Strat, and then I'll go play a couple games of Inside Pitch, and then I'll play a couple games of Payoff Pitch, and then, Dynasty League or whatever pops up. So, I don't play deep drive baseball all the time. So for me, missing stats on a card is a big deal, right? So if we look at Ozzie Albies here, this is what I'm talking about, Ozzie Albies. So you can see he does not have a run rating. You cannot see a run rating on there. You can see Ronald Acuna Jr. is very fast, right? So that's easy to see. You don't see a run rating here. There are other stats that are missing on some player cards as well, like steal rating. Brian McCann has got no steal rating. Does that mean he cannot steal, or he's just average, or what does that mean, right? So when you haven't played for a while, you're going to be like, well, geez, where's the stat? What do I need to do? What do I need to look at, right? So let's show you an example, right? So here is Ozzy Albies. Oops, no, I don't want to. Right, I'll try to make it about the same size as the other one. Right there it is, right? So do you see any difference between these two cards? Do you see any? Does it look more cluttered? Does it look any worse to anyone out there at all? Anyone that says, oh, the card on the right is much better than the card on the left. It looks much better. Really? The only thing that was added is actually his run rating on here. It's an exact copy of his card with a run rating on it. That's the only difference between these two cards. They look exactly the same except for the little A on here. Now, the design decision by the designer was to say, I don't want to clutter my cards. I want to keep the stats to a minimum. I want to make it so, as quick and easy and as readable as possible for players out there. Which is, a design decision that he decided to make, which is his decision. He's the designer. He can do whatever he wants. He designed the game. For me, I don't think that the card on the left with the A is any more cluttered than the card on the right. It looks to me like exactly the same card. It's not cluttered at all. And to not put that on there because you want to so-called keep your cards looking clean is kind of bogus for me, to be honest. It just doesn't make sense. And for the reasons I mentioned. If you play this game all the time, you're going to know what the stats are. You're going to know where to look for the stats. You're going to need to know where everything is on the card, right? So if you play this game all the time, you're going to know, oh, he doesn't have a run rating, right? He doesn't have a run rating, so that's average. We know that. Okay? You play it all the time, you're going to know that. But if you flip between multiple games, multiple different systems, you come back to this one, you might forget that, right? You might not realize that. You might think that, oh, shoot, they might have made a typo, a misprint. When I first got the cards from Deep Drive, I thought that I got a bad copy because all these cards are missing stats on them, right? And then I actually had to email the designer and say, hey, I got all these cards that are missing stats. Did I get a bad copy? He's like, oh, no. And he explained to me, basically said that he wanted to keep the cards clean, so he didn't put a stat on some of them. But seriously, the card on the left and the card on the right, you're telling me there's a big difference between these two cards? Seriously? Now, yes, it's not a big deal, right? It's not a huge super, okay, just because he doesn't have a rating on this card, I'm not playing this game. No, I'm not saying that. It's not that. It just bugs me that, right? The issue that I ran into in playing the game the other night was the hold rating on the pitchers, right? So if you go to the pitchers, which we will zoom down here, you can see that almost every pitcher has a hold rating on their card, right? Most of them, okay, have hold ratings on the card, right? So when your opponent's trying to steal, you're going to adjust their stolen base on the hold rating, all right? What just so happens, the pitcher that I played the other night was like Sean Newcomb here, right? And it didn't have that hold rating on the top, right? So I was looking for the hold rating. I'm like, where the hell is the hold rating? Where the hell? I can't find it anywhere. So I had to look on other pitcher cards and go, oh, I see, it's up here, right? Oh, okay. So Sean Newcomb doesn't have a hold rating, right? But again, if you look at the difference between the card that does have the hold rating and the card that doesn't have the hold rating, are you telling me there's that big a difference? That not putting that on the card is that advantageous. It makes it that much cleaner. Come on. Oh, it's actually Mark Belinden. Sorry, not Sean Newcomb. Right. So if we get it about the same size, there we go. Are you telling me the card on the left and the card on the right are that big a deal that you couldn't put the hold rating on each of the cards, whether it's a hold plus 0 or not? That's not. It just doesn't make sense to me, right? So that's one of the issues I have. That's one of the issues I have with the game. Is it does bug me that the stats are not on there on all of the positions for all the players, and it's not going to ruin the card by having them on there. Now, sure, I can go through and I can write them all down on my own cards that I print out, and it's not that big a deal. So again, not a super big ordeal, but it does take away from the game for me, for the reason that the difference between card number 1 and card number 2 is very, very, very slight, like a 0.00001. And if you're not putting a stat on there for that, that seems like a bad decision. Now again, the designer, he can do whatever he wants. He designed the game. It's his game. He can do whatever he wants, right? I'm just saying, for me personally, that's a bad design decision. All right? So that's the problem I have with why the not having the stats on each of the card can be an issue, because it just so happens the players, the team that I ran the other night, Washington and Los Angeles, the starting pitcher did not have the hold rating. And I had to go look and try and find where the hold rating was. So that's kind of number one issue I have with the game. All right. Number two is I love charts in baseball games. I don't think there's a problem with it. I play Dynasty League Baseball, for God's sakes, which is one of the most chart-driven games there is out there. On just about every play, you're looking up several charts. I don't mind charts. That's not the issue. Most people, or several people in the chat today with CP Cards and Dice, were making this assumption because CP mentioned that I didn't like charts. That's not what I said in my video the other day. Okay? That's why I'm making this video, to clarify everything. I don't care if there's charts. I don't care how many charts. What I don't like is when your chart tells you 100% yes or no, you can do something or you can't do something. Specifically, we're talking about the runner chart. All right? So you can see here is the runner chart. If you are very slow, you're blank, you're fast, you're very fast, or you're very fast plus, right? And then whether it's a single plus, a single, a double, you can look and see whether or not you can do something or not. The most egregious problem I have with this is if you are a slow runner on a single, you cannot go from first to third. 0% chance, even with 2 outs. That's the issue I have with this chart. If you are a slow runner and you get a single, you cannot go from first to third. Not even if you get one column shift to the right, because there's 2 outs. There is no explanation, no reason why a runner doesn't have a chance to go from first to third. In this situation, no. So CP was like, oh, well, he's got a chance to do it if he gets a single plus. If he gets a single plus, then he's got a chance he can do it. Correct, right? If you get a single plus, you have a chance to go from first to third. But you can't if you get a single. And if we look at just some random players, right? If we look at Matt Joyce here, Matthew Joyce for the Atlanta Braves, he's got a 4 or 5 to get an S+. To get a single, he needs a 6 through 12. 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. That is 7 chances. So 2 chances of getting a single plus 7 chances of getting a single, which means on this chart, when he has runners on base, we'll get to that chart in a minute, right? So if he's got a slow runner on base, the chance of him getting a single plus is very slim. 2 out of 9. 10% chance of getting an S+. 90% chance of getting a single, which means the runner on first has no chance of going from first to third. So, sure, he's always got the chance, however small it might be, that the batter will get an S+. And, it's very common. It's very common to see more single results than SI plus results, right? So, just see if we can find another good example here. Of course, it does matter. Okay, so we'll take Ronald Acuna. 10 to 12. Right? 5 to 9. So that's about 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. So he's got an actually better chance of getting an SI plus than a single in this case. So, there are some variances there, right? It's not always going to be a single. It's not always going to be a single plus. But my problem is you're now relying on a batter to get an S plus result anytime you got a slow runner on their base. You're relying on them to get an S plus because there is 0 chance. And that's the problem I have, is there's 0 chance. What I think should have been done, instead of yes and no and question marks, it should all be broken down into a percent chance. Like on a single plus, if you got a slow runner on a 1 to 4, he can go on a 10-sided dice, or a 0 to 4, all right? Or 0 to 5. And that's what I'm going to be changing this chart, because I don't think a 0% chance of a single advancing the runner and relying on the batter to get an S+. You need that S+, or he's got no chance. And even if he does, he's got to roll on a chart, right? He's got to roll on a chart. The same thing goes for the exact opposite, right? Is you always have your fast runner. Always, 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 never 100%, right? Making it from first to third on an SI plus result. Again, this is the only baseball game out there that gives you these yes and no requirements. Design decision by the designer. Again, he can do whatever he wants. It's the only one out there that strictly says this is what happens. Yes or no. Right? If you do inside pitch, right? Hit the ball in the infield, hit the ball in the outfield, you're rolling UD6 and you're looking to see and compare that to the base running ability. Payoff pitch. You're flipping a fast action card, or you're rolling on their chart to find out if the runner goes from first to third. All right? It's not written in stone, yes or no, they can make it or they can't. That's the problem I have with this chart. Stratomatic, same thing. You have a run rating. If you want to advance, you have to roll under that run rating based upon the modifiers of the outfielder, where it was hit, et cetera, et cetera. So there's always a chance in all these other games to take a runner from first to third. Always a chance, no matter what, in every other single solitary game. That's why I don't like this chart. It's because it is telling me, no way, Jose, you cannot do it. A slow runner cannot go from first to third, no matter what, on a single, whether there's 1 out, 2 outs, no outs, doesn't matter. All right, guys, I had to take a quick break there, but hopefully I got my point across. It's not, just to kind of outline it and get back into things here. It's not the fact that there is a chart. The problem I have is the way the chart is designed to either say yes or no. You can do this or you can't. No other baseball simulation game out there does this. I don't think it's a good design decision to always say, nope, you can't not do this. Oh, unless, of course, you're lucky enough to get, you're lucky enough to get sorry, someone messaged me. You're lucky enough to get an SI Plus, then you might have a chance at it. I just don't think that's, these could have been broken down into, a 1 in 10 chance, right? Or, or maybe a no, and then a 1 in 10, maybe a 2 in 10, and then maybe a 5 in 10, and then maybe a question mark or some, you gotta give the players a chance to do things or not be able to do things. It's not an always yes or always no, and that's the problem I have with the chart. It just and the same thing with the runners fly out chart, though that's not used as much. All right, so the last thing we're going to go over issues that I have with the game is the lack of throwing meaningful dice. So if you play the game as it was designed, as it was written, as the rules go, right? So the first thing that happens, right, whenever you have someone on base, you should be rolling to see whether or not there is a on-base event, right? So that is typically roll number 1. Roll number 2 is going to be whether or not that player that's on base is actually going to try to steal or not. Okay? And then you finally get into your actual gameplay. Now, with CP cards and dice, what he does, and I have adopted this as well, is he kind of homebrewed this. All right? This is not part of the rules. He homebrewed this and said he's going to roll a 20-sided dice with his roll, and if a 1 comes up, then there's an on-base event. So, which I think is a really good way of handling it, actually, and that's how I handle it, because rolling percentile to get a 1 in 20 chance, or a 5% chance of something happening, for me, is a waste of time, because you're rolling dice for something that hardly ever happens. Same thing with your stealing, right? You then roll if you have a runner on, and you will try to steal, or see if they steal a base, or they get caught stealing. So if we just say, for example, I don't know, let's just take someone here. Ozzy Albies, he's a 1B, right? So look at 1B. So look at 1 and look at B. He's got a 6% chance of stealing a base. And he has a 2% chance of being caught stealing, right? So basically an 8% chance. So you're wasting time to have the player roll again for something that's going to happen only 8% of the time. So your first roll is a 5% chance of something happening, and your second roll is an 8% chance of happening, right? So between those two rolls that you just made, you have a 0.04% chance of either one of those causing an outcome to happen in your game, in that at-bat. But you're doing it every single time someone comes up with a runner on base. For me, that is a waste of time to spend those extra rolls doing something for a very small chance of something happening. That's the issue I have. Now, what CB Cards and Dice does, obviously, we talked about it. He rolls a 20-sided dice to see if an on-base event happens. But he decides when the base stealer decides to steal or not. He doesn't roll this every single time. So he's homebrewing the rules because he doesn't want to take that extra step, that extra time that you should be doing every time you have a runner on base. So those are two rules that normally in just about every other game system out there, and normally in every other baseball simulation game, Fall Classic, Stratomatic, Inside Pitch, Payoff Pitch, Status Pro, the list goes on and on. All of those other games, right? You either get a result in one or sometimes two rolls. Sometimes in an extreme situation, you might be three rolls. But never, ever more than three rolls in any other baseball game that I know to get an at-bat. And in a lot of those games, Inside Pitch can be one roll. Stratomatic can be one roll. Payoff Pitch can be one roll. Very much in those other games, it can be a one roll situation and be done with it. Sometimes two rolls. In Deep Drive Baseball, you have your original on-base chance. Go to the rules. There we are, right? To find out if there's an on-base event. And if you have a base runner on, you got to find out whether or not they are stealing the base. So you got two rolls there. Okay? Then we'll say, for an example, and this is, of course, is an extreme example. We have, say, Ronald Acuna up, right? And he rolls a 36. So Ronald Acuna rolls a 36. So that is the third roll we're on now. First roll was, we'll just say Ozzie Albies is on first. Ronald Acuna's up at the plate. First roll we did, find out if there's an on-base event. Nope, nothing happened. Second roll, we find out whether Ozzie Albies steals or not. Nope, he doesn't steal. Third roll, he rolls a 36. Look at Ronald Acuna's chart. 36 is a defensive check. All right, well, we go to the defensive chart. Hopefully, did I get the defensive chart? Yes, right. So that's the third roll we're on. He rolled the defensive chart. Fourth roll, he rolls a 0-8 on the defensive chart. We look at the defensive chart. 0-8 is roll again on the error chart. Our fifth roll for this at bat. Fifth roll, we get to roll a 62. We look up 62 and find out whether or not there was an error on the play. Yes, this is an extreme example, but this is what I'm talking about when I'm talking about the flow of the game. Most baseball games, one or two rolls will get you the result, whether you got to look up charts, whether you have to, look up numbers, whatever the situation is. One or two rolls will get you 99%, and then occasionally, like I said, maybe a third roll. But we're already on our fifth roll in Deep Drive Baseball. 5 rolls. Roll number 1, on-base event. Roll number 2, see if the runner steals. Roll number 3 was his result on his card. Roll number 4 was his first defensive chart. Roll number 5 is his error check. That's 5 rolls to get an error check. When in normal situations, you can have Deep Drive Baseball be like the other games, where 1 or 2 rolls will get you a result. This is what I'm talking about, the flow of the game and what I don't like about it. It's not because there's charts. It's not because of the way the charts are designed. It's because of the way the process is used and wasted on these rolls for something that hardly ever happens. In Strat-O-Matic, I decide to steal or I decide not to steal, I roll, it's over, right? I don't have to roll for a very small chance of something to happen. In Inside Pitch, I roll and I find out whether or not there's an event. And if there's an event, I roll and find out whether it's a stolen base or not. Quick and easy. Now, CP Cards and Dice, again, I love the guy. He's awesome. I have nothing but the highest respect for everything he says, everything he does. Everyone has their own opinion. Everyone has their own feelings about things. But you can't deny that when CP Cards and Dice plays Deep Drive Baseball, he's not playing the game as it was written and designed. All right? He's homebrewing his own systems because he doesn't want it to take 5 rolls to get an error check result with a player on first base. If you homebrew where you roll a 20-sided dice with your other dice, you're not playing by the design rules. You can't tell me that Deep Drive Baseball is well designed and well executed and the perfect simulation game when you're homebrewing your own rules into it. If you want to homebrew your own rules to it, that's fine. I don't have a problem with that, but you're changing the core aspect of the game. If you are not rolling for base stealers, if you are not rolling to see whether or not they're stealing bases, you are going to cheat those base stealers of stolen bases, and you're also going to cheat the team throwing them out. If you are homebrewing where you're choosing not to roll that. So you're homebrewing the rules and changing the game, but yet you're telling everyone how wonderful the game is designed, how fast it flows. It flows fast because you're changing how the game plays. You're changing the rules. You're not rolling to see if there's an on-base event. You're not rolling to see if someone steals the base. And if you are, you're not doing it on the camera and no one sees it happening. You're choosing to change it because you want it to play fast. There's nothing wrong with that. I totally agree with it. I think the rules should be changed to be more like the way we actually play it. That's what I'm talking about when I say the game isn't designed well because of the charts and the way the flow of the game is. If it takes me 5 rolls to get an error check when there's someone on base, there's an error in the process somewhere. When every other baseball game out there, 1 or 2 rolls. Again, this is an extenuating circumstance that all the right rolls have to happen. Correct. I'm not arguing that. Yes, it doesn't happen all the time. What I'm saying is Deep Drive Baseball has a good flow to the game. It's 1 or 2 rolls. Boom, 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 boom. 3 rolls, you're on to the bottom of the first. Boom, boom, boom. 3 rolls, you're on to the top of the second. It's great. It's wonderful. It flows really well. Problem is, when these other issues pop up, that stops the flow of the game. When you get a leadoff walk, then you got to roll for your on-base event. Now, if you homebrew it and roll a 20-sider, then you're changing the aspect of how the game was designed. It doesn't say anywhere in the rules, right? It says, roll the percentile die before the plate appearance and check the on-base event chart. Nowhere here, nowhere on these rules does it say, roll a 20-sided dice, and if a 1 is rolled, then check the on-base event chart. Nowhere does it say that. You are homebrewing the rules to change them to fit the way you want the game to flow, which are, again, there is absolutely nothing wrong with that. I have no issue with that at all. I don't mind the way he plays. I enjoy. In fact, like I said, I even started doing that the same way that he does. But you can't sit there and tell everyone on camera that the game flows really well, it plays really fast, blah, 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 when you're homebrewing all these changes to the game. Play it the way it was designed and see how well it plays. Try that once and see what happens. All right? Try rolling 5 times to get an out and see how long it takes you to play the game. Don't tell me it only takes 20, 30, 40 minutes to play this game. It takes an hour because of all these other rules. And the reason is because of the way some of this was designed. Number 1 is this chart right here, the defense chart. 40% of the time, you have to roll again. Instead of combining these 2 charts, which is what I think they should have done, combine these 2 charts into one roll, and then you get your result, you're not rolling 5 times, right? You're not rolling again. Wasted time, wasted rolls. That's why CB Cards and Dice, why he plays the game fast is because, A, he's homebrewed a rule where he throws a 20-sider to see if there's an on-base event. And B, he doesn't check to see if the runner on first steals. Ever. I've never seen him do that. Now, maybe he does. Like I said, I didn't watch the whole live stream today. But he says, oh, the reason he doesn't do that is because there's such a small chance of it happening. Exactly my point. Thank you very much for patting me on the back. My point is, when you have your players roll time after time after time for an event that happens a very small chance of anything happening, it's basically a waste of time. It lengthens the game and breaks up the flow of the game. Deep drive baseball, again, can go very quick. Boom, roll, you look at the out, strikeout, walk. All of a sudden, now it's not so quick anymore because you got to roll for the on-base event. Then you got to roll to see if the runner steals. Then if you're unlucky enough to get a defensive roll, you're going to be rolling at least 4 times minimum to get an out result. And if that happens a lot during your game goes from 40 minutes to 50 minutes to 60 minutes to an hour and 20 minutes to play the game. That's the problem I have. There should have been an easier and better way to not have the player roll for these very small chances of things happening all the time. And you choose to homebrew the rules to make it play your way. That's wonderful. Again, that's great. That's awesome. I think I'm all for it. 2 thumbs up. I copied you. It's great. But don't tell everyone that it plays this way, it plays this fast, it's this great, and everything when you're homebrewing the rules. And you're changing how things play. It doesn't work that way. If you play the game the way it was designed, the way it was written, and play it the way it was originally created, it's not as quick and as fast as you try to make it seem. There are roles you are not doing all the time. I want to see an actual game played by the actual rules and see how long it takes you. Don't tell me this game can take 20, 30 minutes. It does not take that short of a time. It does not, because of the wasted time. That's the issue I have. It could play in 20 to 30 minutes without a doubt if things were designed and created better than they are right now. But it doesn't because of all of these other rules. And if you want to play it in 20 to 30 to 40 minutes, you have to homebrew. You have to ignore the rules. You have to do it your way. If you are doing that, you're not playing the game as it was designed, and that's the issue I have. Nothing wrong with it. I think Deep Drive is a solid entry. I think it needs homebrewed rules. I think it needs homebrewed charts to fix some of these issues. And it could be, quite possibly 4.5 out of 5 stars, 8, 7 or 8 out of 10 possibly. The way it was written and designed is not as good as it can be. That's the issue I have. Because of all of these small design decisions and issues that we just discussed, that's why I just am not as a big a fan of Deep Drive Baseball as I should be. I think it's an issue. Again, a lot of these are small, minor issues. I agree with that. You can write in the comments. I know somebody's writing right now. These issues you have are no problem whatsoever, Jester. You're just a complainer. You're just a hater, blah, blah, blah. Go ahead. Write it. I can already see it coming. That's fine. Do whatever you want to do. Write it in there. Okay? Put it in big capital letters for me so I make sure I get it. That's fine. Doesn't matter. All right? But these are the issues. These are the problems that people need to see. These are when people are deciding whether or not they want to play the game, whether they want to invest money into this company and invest in the game, right? They need to know, okay, it might play 30 to 40 minutes if you homebrew a bunch of rules and you ignore some rules and you don't do things the way it was designed. Sure, you can play a game in 30 to 40 minutes as long as you don't have a lot of base runners, right? I mean, in baseball, any baseball game out there, it doesn't matter which one it is, right? Stratomatic, inside pitch, right? As soon as you get base runners, right, you got to go to that second rule. It's a lot more complex because you got to find out what happens to the runner. You got a runner on, first and third. It's a fly ball. You got to roll to whether or not the runner can come home. If it's designed well, you don't need to do that, right? Right? But all baseball games out there, every single one, 2 rolls. Extenuating circumstances, you might need a 3rd roll. This is the only game that I know of that takes 5 rolls to get an error check if there is a runner on, any of the bases. 5 rolls. If you ignore half the rolls, then you're not playing the way the game was written or designed. Again, this is nothing against CP Cards and Dice. This is my reply to everyone in general about Deep Drive Baseball. In particular, I'm refreshing CP Cards and Dice and his views of what I said the other night and explaining in detail so that he is not confused as to what I have problems with. I don't care that there's charts, all right? The charts are badly designed. When you have 2 charts that do the same thing, right? When you could have just easily incorporated both charts into one roll, right? 40% of the time, you're doing a roll for nothing because you got to go to another chart. That's a wasted time. Sure, it only happens, 10 times a game, 15 maybe, right? It only takes you, 5 seconds to roll an extra dice? Well, you multiply that, right? 5 seconds times 10, that's 50 seconds. That's an extra minute, right? That's just when you have to roll the 1 extra dice. What about when you have to roll the 5 dice, right? Roll 5 dice. So all those times add up. And for me, it breaks the flow of the game because 1 roll out, 1 roll out, 1 roll out. 1 roll, you get a walk, then all of a sudden it takes 5 rolls to get another out. That breaks up the flow of the game. Stratomatic, inside pitch, payoff pitch, Status Pro, you name it, any baseball simulation out there, right? 1 roll, 2 rolls. 1 roll, 2 rolls. 1 roll, 2 rolls. Much better flow than Deep Drive Baseball, in my opinion. Thank you so much for joining me. Leave your thoughts, comments, suggestions below. I know what you're already going to say, but say it anyways. Talk to you all next time.